This meeting will also be conducted by audio and video conference without the requirement of a physically present quorum of the Rock Island City Council due to the disaster declaration issued by Governor Pritzker. Because of this order related to COVID-19 health concerns affecting the state and the city, the mayor has determined that an in-person meeting at City Hall with all participants may not be practical or prudent. Alderpersons and staff may not all be physically present at City Hall due to the disaster, and physical attendance at City Hall may be limited. To participate remotely during the public comment or public hearing portion of the meeting, please join by phone at 1-785-379-6836, PIN 731-811-208#.
Thank you very much. Roll call.
Alderperson Robinson.
Present.
Hurt. Alderperson Hurt. Okay, Gilbert.
Present.
Swanson.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Poulos.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
And Mayor Tomes.
Here. Very good. Public comment. We have to do public comment.
This is for me.
Anybody in the audience for public comment? Nothing back there signed up. Anybody virtual? Hearing none. Mr. Jones, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So today I'm providing you all an update on the work that we've been doing in regards to the West End assessment. And probably the first thing I want to make mention to you that we have done some work with changing the name of it, which is now going to be referred to as West End Renaissance. I think it's appropriate for the work that's being proposed to be done, what they're currently doing, and it's great that it aligns with some of the past work that's occurred in the city of Rock Island. So I'm going to provide you guys a high-level overview of where we've been, where we're at, and what we're looking forward to in the years to come with this project and with this initiative and with this process. And at the end, look forward to any of your questions or things that you'd like to provide us as far as guidance is concerned moving forward. All right, let's see. So looking where we've been, as many of you recall, back in 2019, John Deere approached the city of Rock Island looking forward to make an investment that would have a long-term, significant impact for the citizens of Rock Island. We were able to propose to them, along with the help of CED, a project that would invest in workforce development within our youth, leading to folks investing in the community, building a stronger neighborhood. And John Deere received that proposal well. But they came forth with two suggestions, one suggestion and one question. And one suggestion is, are you dreaming big enough? Not necessarily expanding the geographical area you're looking at, but are your goals aspirational enough? And then secondly, how much input did you receive from the people who are living in this area, experiencing this on a daily? We are completely appreciative of their question, are you dreaming big enough? The second question, however, humbled us a bit because we had not received enough input from the community about what we should be doing moving forward. John Deere was willing, as was the City Council, to invest in a process that engages our citizens as a part of this assessment, not just responding to an assessment, but being part of the creation of it, being part of actually implementing it, and providing recommendations after analysis thereof of the assessment. It's an inclusive, equitable process that really gains the feedback from an authentic point of view the people who are living it. People that were involved that were the community conveners, as we called them, includes Alderman Robinson, Thurgood Brooks, his father Terry Brooks, Prosper Bailey, is that correct? Close enough. Yes, what he said. Andrea Parra, who is now Andrea Bonner, and Victor Jones. And we convened this group, trained them, and then we all know what happened in 2020. COVID hit, so we had to take a year pause with the process. But back in March of 2021, we continued the process, which included assessing the assets that exist in the community, looking at the environmental context in which people are living in, but also having meetings with citizens individually and grouped to gain feedback from a holistic, broad point of view, whether the challenges they're facing, whether the improvements they'd like to see, what is the potential they see in this area of Rock Island. In September of last year, we were able to present to this council the results of that assessment, leading back into January, where we provided you information on how we'd like to move forward and let you know that John Deere is willing to fund our efforts moving forward, which I'll be talking to you a bit more. And when I say we, I do mean the King Center being the forward-facing aspect of this, but community economic development is a major part of this effort moving forward. So let's talk a little bit about the results from that assessment to give us more context. The findings had it broken down really in 4 categories: the assets, disparities, the barriers, and the windows of opportunities that exist in that area of Rock Island. And I'm not going to go through each and every one of these. Certainly you can do so at your leisure, but I would like to highlight the assets that came out of these findings, because we utilized the community conveners utilized that to highlight the recommendations, to inspire the recommendations, and to inform the process that we'll be utilizing moving forward. So assets. The first one listed is the City of Rock Island's programs, investments in the area. That is not to be neglected. However, perhaps there's a different approach in leveraging and utilizing those resources in the future to be more effective. I'm going to read it from here. Douglas Park came out as a shining example of a great asset, great investment, and great potential for this area in Rock Island. Social capital, i.e. the informal social networks, the neighborhoods that exist in this area are strong, especially in the immigrant and refugee populations. And then finally, that there are great leadership and great organizations that lead this community in this area. And you can take a look at the disparities and the barriers and the windows of opportunities. None of those will surprise you, but focusing on the assets, the community conveners were able to come up with 5 recommendations on how to move forward or areas to address. And that first one is to strengthen civic capital in this area. The formal and the informal networks where people come together to work collaboratively to make decisions for the community. 2, build on assets and income. That's pretty straightforward, but more financial literacy, providing opportunity for land ownership, building wealth, investments within individuals within this area of Rock Island. Increase housing stability and quality along with community control and land and community control of land and housing, which are things you guys have been currently discussing through works with CED. Increasing the economic vitality of the area, uplifting businesses, creating opportunities for entrepreneurship and the like. And then improving the infrastructure and visual design of the West End and Rock Island. Now, sure, that makes absolute sense, and no one could probably dispute the efficacy, the importance of doing these things. And you couldn't dispute the fact that these efforts have been made in the past in a variety of ways. So what's going to be different moving forward? Well, this group agreed that there are 2 main strategies that need to focus on. The first one is going to be rooted in HUD and CDBG talk, okay? So it is create a neighborhood revitalization strategy area called affectionately a NERSA. And I'm going to try to get this right, but Miles will kick me if I don't. Thank you.
I'm watching you.
Excellent, excellent. It allows us, through an application process, if it's approved through HUD, to utilize our CDBG dollars in a more flexible, responsive way to some of the issues that we're seeing in the community. Real high level, really oversimplified, but nonetheless, you get the point. Good enough? All right. And then secondly, develop a plan and infrastructure for implementation. Now, if I was back in college, I would have written that on my blue books as, any answer I need to give in social studies. But really, what's behind that is a model on how to do exactly that. And I want to spend most of our time talking about that model, and that is the collective impact model. And before I get into it, I'm going to play a really quick video that gives a strong overview of what collective impact is for those of you that might not be completely familiar with it. Tim, can you hit that for me, please?
The number and complexity of challenges facing our world can be overwhelming. When individual organizations attempt to tackle the most daunting problems, success stories are all too rare. Many innovative approaches have been tried, too few have worked. However, when organizations work together under the right conditions, they can accomplish great things. One particularly effective means of collaboration is collective impact. Using the collective impact approach, a number of complex social challenges have been addressed and some remarkable results have been achieved. Youth incarcerations dropped by 45% in just 3 years, with no change in public safety, improving the lives of thousands of youths. 6,000 public housing residents were placed in new jobs during the recession. More than 1,000 acres were restored and over 280 million pounds of pollution voluntarily reduced to conserve and restore a river. Organizations utilizing a collective impact approach do the following: agree to a common goal, agree to track progress in the same way, which allows for continuous improvement, do what each does best while identifying new ways to work together, have consistent communication, and finally, have skilled and dedicated resources to support ongoing efforts. The world's toughest challenges aren't going away. In fact, many experts predict they will continue to grow in both number and complexity. Solving these problems requires a range of expertise from a number of diverse organizations. Collective impact is a proven approach, helping organizations work together to move mountains.
My favorite kind of video, short to the point, provides you the key aspects of it. But you can see why we've, oh, it did work, Tim. Can you go to the next slide for me, please? Thanks. So you can see why collective impact is a really good model for some of the issues that are being addressed from the West End Renaissance from the assessment. It's an opportunity to work collaboratively, but also from a grassroots level. So in its purest form, it's incredibly inclusive, which is one of the values that the city has. And it provides an opportunity for a diverse group of people to be engaged in some of these issues, creating the solutions in which they live to have long-term impact. Again, there are important aspects that must be utilized or must be honored in this process. Having that common agenda, understanding what the changes that we're looking to do, agree upon the approach, and understanding the goal and agreeing upon it. Mutually reinforcing activities, that opportunity to bring different folks from different sectors together, aligned towards a common goal, utilizing their expertise and their experience. Shared measurements, having an agreed upon way to measure our progress so that we know when we're making steps forward or we're taking steps back and need to adjust and reformulate and move forward again. This will be an iterative process, so there will be mistakes, but that's part of the process. Continuous communication to every aspect of those who are stakeholders to this. And that means being able to communicate in different ways at different times that reach and are accessible, consumable to all who are involved. And then finally, one aspect we didn't talk about in the video is that backbone support. So that's dedicated staff, independent, that's supporting this effort, not influencing the content, but providing the avenues, clearing the way, showing the way that they can get these things done. Currently, through board vote at the King Center, we are serving in that role, the backbone support. CED is playing a role in that as well. We will not continue to have that capacity moving forward, so that'll be part of the planning moving into the future for this collective impact model for the West End Renaissance. Those are all theoretical things I showed you, but what does it look like? What is it? And so I found a great graph or visual representation of what we're looking at right now. I am not trying to clearly define it because it is not for me to define. It is for the folks that are involved in it to define. But currently, we're putting in place a steering committee, a group of people that are going to be providing the strategic guidance for the folks who are going to be working these recommendations, these strategies, these plans. And we even took a step back to make sure we weren't involved in creating that steering committee. We recruited a task force of community champions to help us not only identify, but to recruit and get people committed to being part of the steering committee. We don't have the steering committee fully constituted yet, but we do have 5 people who are committed and several who are interested, and some I hope are listening tonight, but they certainly will see this video later, to get them on board with this so that we can begin very soon their training and their engagement to do some of the work that's coming forward. The task force to help find these steering committee members are, again, Mr. Moses Robinson, Thurgood Brooks, Ms. Bonnie Ballard, Tila Shore, Gay Shannon Burnett, and Tia Edwards. And they did an incredible job, and will continue to do a good job for us, even though they said, hey, this is a task force, so it's time limited. I understand, Moses. We'll honor that. Looking at the model further, you can see that what will happen likely next is that there'll be working groups engaged, likely aligned around those 5 recommendations: civic capital, assets and income, housing quality, and so on and so forth, coming up with strategies, plans, all aligned towards the ultimate goals, building the wealth, livability, and power of the West End of Rock Island. And then you see the backbone support, which provides, I can't read that far, so I'll read from here. Help guide the strategy, support the aligned processes. In other words, making sure that the process is honored, that people are gaining the resources they need, that things are being identified that could be problematic, challenging moving forward, but providing also that opportunity to communicate that to different stakeholders, sectors in the community.
How many people do you hope to have on the steering committee?
Between 7 and 11.
Okay, thank you.
And so looking ahead, because that's where we are right now, is constituting that steering committee. We are looking by the end of this month, is meeting with that steering committee, beginning their training, beginning their engagement. In November, building work groups and that crucial and critical communication plan. Continuing in November and beyond, building backbone capacity and what that needs to look like moving forward. In December, beginning that draft of the NRSA, Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy Area, application for HUD, not bad, right? For a March submission, and they're working with Enterprise for that. And the timing for that's important because what's going to go in the application is going to be directly influenced by the results or the work that's being done with the West End Renaissance. January and March, more creation of work groups, strategy plans, and metrics. Agreed upon ways to measure our progress. March, tentatively, the NRSA submission with the Community Action Plan to HUD, and then throughout the rest of the year, communicating progress, communicating successes, raising funding for these efforts. That will be really important moving forward. All moving towards that ultimate goal of building the West End community's wealth, power, and livability. Utilizing the values that you can see here: justice, equity, inclusion, with a vision that West End is a preferred place to live and thrive. And I know you all can get really excited behind this because I quickly and immediately looked at the mission statement and the vision and the goals for the city of Rock Island that you yourselves have come up with. You use some of the same language, but without doubt, you have the same objective, same spirit within the work that we're doing, embodied in the goals of the city of Rock Island from 22 to 2025. So I look forward to you all being supportive with this work, because certainly this shows some bold leadership, some vision, and I'm hoping to capitalize on that with your help moving forward in these areas and beyond. I'm hoping that we can count on you to continue to recognize this work as it comes to you in its variety of forms as a real positive asset for not just this area of Rock Island, but for the city of Rock Island and hopefully beyond. That you can assist us in leveraging resources and relationships that will be key for this effort, and that you tell the story of this work to everyone and anyone. You all deserve the credit if you're supporting this effort that allow Rock Island to be recognized as innovative, as visionary, as brave, and moving forward in dealing with complex issues that have stood with us for decades because of the very nature of these problems being complex. No one has a simple answer to this. So bravely looking forward into what challenges us and addressing it in an appropriate fashion, you should get credit for being that courageous. That being said, this won't be a quick process. It will be truly a process that will continue. And so I want you to keep in mind that we can go fast, but we'll be doing that alone. But if we want to do it right, we need to be doing it together. And that means taking time. And with that, I open the floor up for any discussion you'd like to have with me in regards to West End Renaissance. Yes, Judith.
So this neighborhood revitalization strategy area, is this something that HUD has been funding? Is that a typical type of program within HUD, or is this something totally new you're gonna bring to HUD?
So I can do something that would be very helpful, which is send you a chapter on this out of a book called basically CDBG, which lays out in plain English kind of what it is. Basically, though, it's something that you apply to do with HUD, where they will review the strategy that you submit, and if they are amenable to what you lay out, they loosen the regulations on how CDBG funds can be deployed.
So is it new CDBG funds or our existing ones?
It's our existing funds, and then we can loosen them up and use them for a broader range of things. Again, I can send you that chapter. I can send it to Todd for you to look at as well if you'd find it beneficial as well. And it kind of lays out sort of what they're looking for and how you would loosen it up.
Did you say this was a chapter from a book, or is it
Yep,
a
there's-
chapter from HUD?
It's a book put out by HUD. So
Oh,
what it's
okay.
called is basically CDBG. If you go on Google and literally put in basically CDBG, it'll link you to the HUD Exchange, which is their kind of information database. And what it'll come up is basically chapter by chapter, different parts of the book they put out to give you guidance on how to use CDBG funds, report on CDBG funds, all that good stuff. And again, it's actually put out so that it's a little more understandable. So instead of having to go into like the regs themselves and read what they say, you can go into that book and get kind of a slightly higher level understanding of the general rules and stuff.
So with a March 2023 submission of the plan to HUD, is that for program funding 2024?
That would be the idea. So there goes through a review process. Ultimately, it'll get incorporated when we submit the annual action plan for that program year you mentioned.
Thank you.
Yep.
Jerry, is anybody from the foundation working, I know you're working with the John Deere Foundation, excuse me, the John Deere Foundation. Do they ever have anybody on the steering committee or anything else, or?
No, and mainly because there's no one on the foundation that lives or has great familiarity with the area we're talking about. And they do want to have a certain level of objectivity as they look forward to investment moving forward. But we are keeping them well informed on a regular basis so they can keep their excitement going. And they're very supportive thus far.
Yeah, that's great.
I think it's a great idea. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think it's wonderful. I'm very, very much in support of everything that you're doing, and I think it's great.
I'll be taking you on visits then. Thank you.
I'll be there.
Yeah, following up on that, I especially like you had mentioned the financial literacy component. I think that is critical for Rock Island's long-term financial, for our survival as a community, because we're getting very close to half of our households are at the low to moderate income. And so we need to figure out ways to that down and increase everybody up.
Yes. Again, not trying to influence the content. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
I spent a lot of time on this, so,
Yeah, and that's why there's not as many, is because you did a great job.
well, thanks.
No, it is wonderful. And thank you for everybody that's volunteered so far and put the time in, Moses and the group, and that's great.
Looking forward to seeing what progresses and how we can help out later on.
Thanks. We're really excited about this. Hope to keep you excited about it as well.
So, and if you publish a media release about what you're doing,
What a great question.
I'd be happy to publish it on my website.
Part of the communication plan will be releasing this, and it's not a secret. It's certainly available for everyone, but we want to make sure it's done in the best way that everyone can understand it in the same fashion.
Be aware of what we're doing. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good, thank you. Okay. We need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved in second. I assume there's no discussion on that. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Pulis?
Aye.
Healy?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
We are adjourned.